Well, here it is, folks. Donald Trump just gave us a time frame for when to expect those stimulus dividend checks. And boy, oh boy, what a shocker. Not really. It's a midterms play. We saw this coming. We talked about it the day we first heard about it. And sure enough, looks like mid to the end of 2026. But let's listen to what Trump says in context. And then we'll talk more about this and the odds of this happening, because we know this is debt spending. Government's spending us into oblivion with an extra $1.8 trillion of debt per year right now. That's where we sit. Let's see what Trump says about it, though.
We've taken in hundreds of millions of dollars in tariff money.
Right. Quickly, he's raspy because he says he got into an argument about trade. He refused to say which country it was regarding. I think this is usually very classic Donald Trump marketing, is that, oh, I lost my voice because I was playing golf and happy. Let's tell everybody it's because I was negotiating so hard. Like, hey, maybe he's right, but in fairness, it might be unrelated.
We're going to be issuing dividends later on, somewhere prior to, probably in the middle of next year, a little bit later than that.
Right, middle of next year would imply June, July. Maybe a little bit later than that would imply what? Well, midterms. You got elections in November of 2026. A little bit later, usually they want to aim to get those checks out like in September, because you want to get those early voters. So Besson also said, hey guys, if we do any kind of stimulus checks, we're going to have to get congressional approval. Well, of course. And that's what they're going to try to set up, is Trump will say, well, I would do it faster if it were up to me, but we're going to have to get Congress on board. And then what'll happen is they'll pressure in the next legislative session Democrats, hopefully, for the sake of everybody, those 8 to join in on board, those 8 Democrats to join in with Republicans again, and you get some kind of stimulative measure passed. But Donald Trump is going to turn this all into a branding of, the Democrats don't want to give you a rebate on my tariffs that are making so much money. Like, you could already write the playbook for this.
Thousands of dollars for individuals of moderate income, middle income. We're going to pay down debt. We have a lot of money from tariffs.
Not that much money. So the idea is that you've got maybe probably somewhere around 75 million families that would qualify for this tariff dividend or tariff stimulus or whatever. That's because so far the Trump administration suggests they would begin phasing the stimulus out at about $100,000 of income, which that already rules out a lot of nurses and heroes and firefighters, or people working hard and getting overtime. So it rules out a lot of people. You've got Besson already trying to say, oh, well, Americans are going to get tax rebates on by buying American cars. Bro, who wants to buy a new car today? Let's be real. You're going to buy a new car, and if you don't get an introductory financing loan, you're going to end up paying like 8% on the loan so you can get your mortgage loan interest write-off. And then if you get a 0% introductory kind of financing or special deal at the dealership, you're not paying interest anyway, so what are you going to deduct? Come on, man, this is ridiculous.
If we didn't have tariffs, this nation would be in serious trouble.
No.
And we've taken in tremendous amounts of money.
Oh, right. The reason I was saying 75 million is because it would cost about $150 billion to send out these stimulus checks. If you collect about $200 billion per year, I guess that leaves an extra $50 billion in that example. But the odds are almost all of the money that you collect from tariffs would just go directly to some form of stimulus dividend or stimulus check. And you hear Trump here is talking about doing thousands of dollars around midterms. We've already heard commentary about under 6-figure incomes.
And you know what's more important than that? We've protected our businesses from being raided like we did with the chip business. Now we're bringing them all back. But we had 100% of the chip industry, and then they left. They went mostly to Taiwan and South Korea, but mostly Taiwan. And they have almost 100%. And we're going to have, within a short period of time, a big percentage of the chip business are coming back because of tariffs, because they don't want to pay the tariffs, because the tariffs will be very steep if they don't come back, and they've committed to come back.
In fairness, Trump also has now gotten UBS, the Swiss bank, to talk about potentially moving the banking headquarters from Switzerland to the United States, which Switzerland has recently been a big victim of the tariff war.
As you probably heard, Apple is now up to $700 billion. We have NVIDIA.
Right, but in fairness, Apple talks about this because really what they're doing is they're just looking at their actual cash outlays that they would have spent anyway. And they're just like, yeah, look at all this money we're spending. Trump, it hasn't really changed from what they were doing anyway on an annual run rate. Who knows? Maybe there's some extra commitments baked into there, but I think a lot of these companies are going to be waiting to see what happens with the economy. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't think the economy is that great when you have Ben Shapiro literally reading, Ben Shapiro reading the New York Times to tell you how bad the economy is doing. These are things that I would never thought I would put in a video. And they're literally now, I guess, doing some like lifetime access. I'm like, how many Meet Kevin videos have you all been watching? But like, literally, listen to this.
But what exactly is happening at the top end of the market? So back in October, there's a piece from the New York Times that explained how much money is passing hands between companies like, for example, OpenAI and companies like NVIDIA.
Yeah, and a lot of that information was put together by companies like The Information and Bloomberg that then the New York Times regurgitated and recycled over here. I feel like Ben Shapiro is reading directly from a ChatGPT prompt, so I expect that he's quite the beneficiary of AI. But I do think it's kind of funny to see Ben Shapiro in a video literally titled, "The Economy is About to Burst," and then if you watch the first 20 minutes of the video, you're like, okay, we got two sponsors in, and he thinks there's a bubble that's about to burst. Yeah, times aren't good right now. It is a rough economy. This idea that the Atlanta Fed real GDP numbers just got revised up is fugazi to me. You know how I think it's fugazi? Look at the component. 4.1% revision up on GDP. I don't trust this as far as I could throw it. But read the line here. Why did we revise it up? Oh, we revised it up because after this morning's construction report from the U.S. Census Bureau, we actually now believe that third quarter real investment growth is not negative 4.2%. It's just negative 2.7%. So because it's less negative, it's good. And I get it. Yes, less negative is good, but it's like, that's the topsy-turviness of the environment, this economy that we're in. And so you get one part of the environment or the economy, like the AI spend, that's propping everything else up. And it's covering all of the cracks that normal, everyday Americans are feeling in their lives when they go to the grocery stores, when they go to restaurants. I mean, we know we've been in a recession for a long time. It's just a matter of time before the stock market rolls over and realizes it. And that's going to hurt a lot of people's wealth. And so, you know, you might end up having these checks coming right in the middle of a recession. But let's listen to the rest here.
$600 billion. We have tremendous amounts of money pouring in. Our country has become amazing again and really, really rich again.
I think it's gaslighting, and it's just rude to tell Americans that, guys, we are so rich. Really? Is that because of all the money that we're making with the Saudis here? Oh, wait, sorry, that's just the Trump organization.
I'll say this. We have a decision we're waiting for. It's a very big decision.
That's the Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court is not going to make a decision until February to May. So basically, they're going to wait until the Supreme Court acts. So now Donald Trump can point the finger at the Supreme Court and go, well, we got to wait for the justices, and then we'll decide on sending the checks. If it were up to me, I'd send them now. And then he'll blame the Democrats for holding it up and go, well, we need Congress. We're going to need some Democrats to come on board with us and increase the government debt even more.
The numbers that we've taken in, if you talk about investments, is trillions. Not with a B, not with an M.
That trillions, by the way, these are like, a lot of these are just sort of like verbal ideas of commitments. They're like concepts of commitments, like healthcare.
But trillions of dollars. I can't imagine having to give that money back on something that we're allowed to do. And the ones that are fighting us are countries.
He's talking about giving that money back. In other words, if the Supreme Court says, oh, tariffs are illegal, you know, only Congress has the power to tax you, got to give the money back. Trump is like, why would I have to give any of that money back? You know, in fairness, there were some reports out from the Federal Reserve that suggest that over the long term, tariffs can be deflationary, but it really is causation without correlation. So let me simplify that for a moment. If you hear anybody say that tariffs are deflationary, it's bad because you were misinterpreting how the economy functions. In short, tariffs will take normal price levels and create a one-time spike in price levels. You move them up to a higher level because you've increased taxes. That difference, some of it goes to the government, and some of it gets lost in waste and economic negativity. That negativity can actually slow down, that deadweight loss can slow down an economy. And when economies slow down, prices tend to decline. So when, for example, in the extreme, when an economy goes into a recession or worse, a depression, prices tend to come down and deflate. Now that sounds great. We want prices to come down, but we want prices to come down without a recession or depression. Because if you have a recession or depression, you don't want to spend money because you're going to lose your job. So you're worried about losing your job and just keeping the lights on. So yeah, everything's cheaper, but then you don't want to spend anything. It's the worst case scenario. So this idea that, tariffs, they lower inflation. No, they don't. In the short term, they increase inflation sort of one time. So when you lap it year over year, it's not like a recurring form of inflation, but they do increase inflation. Unfortunately, because of them, there's such a drag that you've created on the economy that you actually slow down the economy so much that you end up in the longer term creating prices that fall because you've now damaged the economy. I don't know if you can tell, I'm not a big fan of tariffs, but I am a big fan of the Alamo. Have you seen my mug? Not this mug, this mug. See, look at that. Come and take it.
It's largely, they're back in countries that have been ripping us off for years, using tariffs to rip us off. And now we're
And remember the fact about tariffs. Other countries had trade-weighted tariffs on the United States of about 2.2%, and we have now increased that to about 18%. If you consider loopholes, it's probably somewhere around 12 to 13%. So any way you slice it, we have increased tariffs somewhere between 8 to 14 times. So our tariffs are way higher than whatever any other country has ever done. Trump likes to sort of cherry pick that, Canada tariffs our apples at 150%. No, they don't. That's only in the extreme, and it's never been paid because it's like this political paper writing that never gets used. You're cherry picking this or apple picking.
To defend ourselves. It really is a matter of national security because economic security is national security.
This is his argument basically to the Supreme Court justices. Don't take away my right to tariff people.
So I think you're going to see another thing happening. I think you'll see food prices. They've come down very substantially since.
Please don't talk about eggs.
But I think you're going to see food prices coming down very substantially.
Yeah. So that was then he gets into talking about Mexico. Look, this is an interesting update, but it confirms what we already expected. That Trump is going to dangle this carrot until midterms, and he's going to use it to buy your vote. And that's not to be like anti-Trump. Gavin Newsom did that as well. He called them stimulus relief checks. And it was inflation relief stimulus checks. That's what it was. Gosh, it's such an oxymoron. I can't help but butcher how to say it, but it's insane. But yeah, there you go. Welcome to government. Welcome to politics. Subscribe for more. And check out the Alpha Report. Got a coupon expiring on that on NVIDIA earnings day, which is in 2 days at meetkevin.com.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.